Hey, everybody. John here again. Welcome back. About a month ago, I went to Salt Lake City, Utah to see my favorite band, Iron Maiden, play in concert and also to be a tourist for a few days. So, in this video, I want to talk about how I booked everything, why I booked everything the way that I did, and what my total costs were for this 3-day weekend. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I did a very similar video back in September after getting back home from the credit card content creator meetup in New Orleans, where I talked about my strategy for booking domestic travel and my total costs for that trip. And I got a lot of positive feedback from that video where people were saying they really enjoyed seeing someone talk about domestic travel and seeing the cost involved for a trip like that, and encouraged me to do more videos like that. And so here you go. I'm doing this video for those folks and also for anyone else who might be curious as well. So we're going to dive into the trip to Salt Lake City. Um, but before we do, if you could hit the like button on this video, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel as well. Doing so gets my channel more visible to more folks on YouTube, and it's a free way to support me as well. And so I thank you ahead of time for doing that. Let's dive in now. So, this was a 3-day trip to Salt Lake City that I had ended up booking. It was from a Thursday through a Saturday in October about a month ago. Um, Going backwards in time to October of last year, I was looking for welcome offers on the American Express Platinum card, of which I was finally able to acquire and pick up in October of last year. And so during that time, I was obviously working on the welcome offer for the card. So fast forward a little bit to the beginning of December, I was looking online at different things. I saw where my favorite band, again, Iron Maiden, was in concert or is going to be touring the US in 2024. So was poking around looking to see where they're going to be at. They weren't coming to Kansas City, so I was looking at other options, and one option that caught my eye was Salt Lake City. Never been to Salt Lake City, let alone Utah. So I pulled the trigger and bought the ticket. Um, I put it on the platinum card again to meet the spend requirement. I'm not going to include that cost in this video because that's kind of a one-off thing. So I'll skip over that. Next was my looking for flights and hotels. So obviously, putting that spin on the platinum card again, uh, I ended up flying Delta. As you all know, I'm a Delta fanboy. I will always fly Delta if it makes sense. And so, with Delta being, with Salt Lake City being a Delta hub, it made sense. And so, I bought a first class round trip ticket to and from Salt Lake City with Delta Airlines, and that cost ended up being $647.80 for that round trip first class ticket. Next was the hotel. The venue that the concert was at the Delta Center, and it's downtown Salt Lake. So I was looking at all the hotels in the area there. There are several to pick from in downtown. I ended up settling for the Marriott City Center Hotel, which I was happy that I ended up picking that hotel. Ended up being about a mile from the Delta Center. There were several other hotels that were a lot closer, but I ended up picking this property, and I'm very glad I did. My hotel room was super nice. At least to me, it was. It was a king bedroom. I think they called it a king suite. It had like a very nice sofa in there as well. The bed was very nice and comfortable. The bathroom was nice. The whole room was very spacious for the footprint. At least it seemed like it was to me. Had a nice view of the main street down below, and also of the mountains off to the east of the city. So really, really enjoyed my stay there for the 2 nights I was there. The cost of that hotel for 2 nights ended up being $487.21 for 2 nights. So a little pricey for 2 nights, but again, a really nice property that I highly recommend if you do go uh, to Salt Lake and you're looking to stay at a Marriott. I highly recommend that property. So again, the hotel 487.21. So as you all know too, I do not park my vehicle at the airport. Too many bad stories I've heard from people across the country at just parking at airports in general. So I don't chance it. I leave my vehicle here in the garage at home and I Uber to and from the airport every time I travel. For my Uber trip to the airport here in Kansas City, the cost was, including tip and everything, was $67.02 or $62.07. Uh, that cost ended up actually being $27.02 because of the Uber credits that are on the Platinum card, the American Express Gold card, of which I also have, and also the Delta Platinum card, of which I also have. And so those credits on all three of the cards are $35 total. So I ended up only paying $27.07 out of pocket. Uh, and that was charged to the Delta Platinum card. Um, uh, as it was the card that had the final $10 credit on that card. So ended up being 2707 for my trip to the airport. Now for all of my food and dining and whatnot, the total charge cost for all of that was $112 and pardon me, $112.94. And basically that includes um, lunch at different restaurants on Thursday afternoon and also Friday afternoon before the concert. I also ate at the hotel. Yeah, with the Marriott and my status, I did not get any kind of food credit or anything. So I paid to eat at the hotel on Thursday night. I ate at the hotel because it was kind of nasty, wintry weather outside. So I decided just to stay in after traveling that day and having driven around the city for a few hours that day. Decided to just eat at the hotel that night and also had breakfast at the hotel that next morning, of which the breakfast buffet there was super good, really good food. I really enjoyed it. So, um, but yeah, so my food cost the entire time was $112.94. Unbeknownst to me, and I didn't even think to look at it, on Friday afternoon before going back to the hotel to freshen up for the concert, I ended up eating at a Resi restaurant. And I didn't know this about Resi, but I ate at the restaurant. Um, Obviously, I used my American Express Gold card to pay for the meal there. Really good restaurant, had a great burger, really good fries. And like I said, it ended up being a Resi restaurant. And everything with tip and everything was $30 even. And lo and behold, Resi credit for $30 hit my gold card. So I learned something new on this trip as well. I didn't know that you didn't have to actually reserve put a reservation through on Resi to get the Resi credit. It just happened. So that was a nice surprise to see that almost pop up immediately the next day. So that was a good surprise. So after it's all said and done, my dining with the Resi credit ended up being $82.94 out of pocket. Now, while I was there in town, you've heard me say a few times I was driving around. I had gotten a rental car, obviously. I rent from Enterprise Rent a Car. Uh, they're partners with National, obviously. We all know that. My company has status with uh, National. And so my company is gracious enough to let us employees use company status to rent vehicles. So I was able to I didn't get anything super fancy or anything. I got a Toyota RAV4 for the 3 days I was there. And with the company discount and all that good stuff, I ended up paying $194.25, so $194.25 for 3 days for the Rav4 SUV. So, and I had actually saved that. I put it on the well. I put the initial charge on the platinum card for the rental car CDW coverage that comes with the premium rental car protection on that card. But then I ended up actually, when it all said and done, I ended up actually putting the charges on my USBank Business Altitude Connect card, and I had this card on me as well because I put my gas on it as well. And my total gas charges for the entire trip there, and again, I was only there for 3 days. I drove around quite a bit, but the RAV4 gets great gas mileage, and so I ended up only paying like $6.61 for fuel for the RAV4 for while I was there. So that was a nice cheap gas cost there for the time I was there. And so, going back to the airport and flying back home, obviously I'm Ubering back home. And so the final charges here I'm going to talk about for this trip were my Uber back home to Kansas City. And that charge, I totally forgot what the charge was now, but my total Uber cost for the entire trip after all the credits was $56.10. So again, you remember I talked about going to the airport initially where the Uber credits all kicked in and my charge was actually 2707. So my total charges were 5610. The reason why is because on my way back home from the airport here, I changed the card on my account, my Uber account, to again my Business Altitude Connect card. And the reason why is because this card gets a $25 credit when using ride shares in 3 consecutive months. So I had used uh, I'd used it in August and September for my trip to and from New Orleans, and then as soon as I used it back in October for my Uber ride back home to from Salt Lake City, then the $25 credit hit right away as well. So that's why I technically had charges of 116.10 for my Uber rides total here in Kansas City, but because of the Uber credits on the American Express cards and the rideshare credit that hit on my Connect card, my total charges were $56.10. So adding everything up all together, and I'm looking at notes here, so pardon me for not looking at the camera, but my total charges for this entire trip were $1,474.91. And that's it. That's all I have for you. I'm really curious to hear what you all have to say in the comments section below. Let's talk about this. I'm going to see what you all think. Um, and I'm going to put a link to the previous video I did after the New Orleans trip where I talk about my strategy for booking and where I actually prefer to pay cash for domestic trips. So that's why this trip here was, $1,474.91. Not only because I prefer to pay cash, but also because I was working on a welcome offer on a card at the time. So it came in handy. So let's talk about that in the comment section below. Also, too, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that. I greatly appreciate that very much. And until next time, be good to each other. Bye for now.